We are entering a BINC era because many indicators are showing us that things are changing in a radical manner. If you look at the economy as a big indicator, then we can see that we can make value by making software, applications, and it takes humans, capital, and land to make the first copy of this application. But whether we make 2 copies or a billion copies is virtually without any cost. And if we can sell each copy for a certain amount of money, then we can make profit without production. That's new in the human history. And actually also increasingly more material goods can be made very, very, very inexpensively. We actually there's a general trend that most stuff that we make, the marginal cost of production, they approach zero. And these two things have a huge impact on our economy, and they're mainly driven by digitization and artificial intelligence and automation. Now, another issue, another thing that if you look at these products that's based on information and communication technology and including artificial intelligence, they are pretty much global when they are born. That means that everybody on the globe can use them. And if you make a product that's a little bit better than everybody else, or you have a better advertising operation, then you have a situation where winner takes all. So it's quite an unstable market in that way. And this is also a very important factor. Now, these things together means that we have to expect that about 50% of all known job functions, they'll disappear in the next 15 to 20 years. Alone the economy, I think, indicates that we have great changes underway. Another sort of indicator is, we can maybe call it the globalization or the increased connectivity. We can look at climate change. Climate change is a big issue, and it's also driven by technology. We are now at a place where the human population really is changing the climate, and it's a global issue. Another global issue is that we, because of very inexpensive communication technology and also transportation technologies, now have the whole world being mixed up, meaning that the cultures that is developed for thousands of years in one part of the world are suddenly neighbors to another part of another culture that is developed for another 1,000 years. And that causes all kinds of constipations, because now suddenly we don't have in a region, or within a nation state, we don't have consensus about what it means to be human or how the world is. So that is a big transformation too. I would also mention that human activities is actually in the process of making another, I think the 6th global extinction of species. And it means that many species are actually dying off because of our activities. So if you look at sort of the global scale, then there are dramatic changes. Some of them are good and some of them are bad, but there are certainly dramatic changes. Another indicator is what it means to be human. And we today have the ability to select the kind of baby you'd like to have. A woman has thousands of eggs, and you can, as a woman today, have a number of eggs fertilized, and then you can pick the most promising version of your child. I mean, of course, you can sort bad diseases out, but this selection of your offspring is something you can do today, and this is actually happening. Now, it doesn't take long before we'll be able to also modify our genetics with, these new technologies. CRISPR has opened up for enable us to do that. It's still not at all clear how we can make more pretty or more intelligent kids or more compassionate kids or whatever, but that's certainly in the cards. This will happen. Another very big one is that an increasing part of our life is related to cyberspace. And that means that we interact in ways we haven't done before, over distances we haven't done before, and in communities that we haven't done before. And that causes all kinds of issues like echo chambers. I mean, it's wonderful possibilities, but there are huge changes underway. So that's certainly also an indicator that something big is coming. Now, last thing I want to mention is sort of a conclusion or whatever, and that's the breakdown of our narratives. We have narratives about how the world works and our worldviews, and our worldviews and our narratives, they are for the most part created during in the industrial era, and now we see they break down because of these other indicators I've mentioned. And as these narratives about reality they break down, then we get confused, and that opens up for for fake news. And because what are you supposed to believe in? I mean, the old stories about how the world works, they don't work anymore because they're simply not true anymore. So that's, I think, the fundamental reason why, or if you just want to mention one cause, of course, it's much more complicated, is because the reason why we are in a post-factual era right now is because our narratives are broken down. So we need to create new narratives that are congruent with our reality. Now, unfortunately, these are very complicated things. I mean, how all these different factors interact with each other requires a lot of effort, work and effort for scientists from many different disciplines. And because it's so cross-cutting, then it's virtually impossible. It's very, very difficult to get research funding to explore these things, although it is, as far as I can tell, maybe one of the most urgent issues that we as societies and humanity would want to know. How the heck do we navigate this transition? And one of the big issues is how dramatic, of course we cannot predict what the future will be, but we will be able to say something about, or it will be nice to know how big these changes are. Carl Schwab from the World Economic Forum, he's sort of named this transition for the fourth industrial revolution, and I'm not sure whether we can actually keep this industrial framework in this new transition. I actually believe that this transition is going to be more dramatic or more radical. So we'll have to change our constitution, and then we should, instead of looking at some of the changes we've had during the industrial era, we should instead look at how historically we should look at what happened when we went from an agricultural based society to an industrial based society. So these are really exciting and very important issues.